The glass walls of Helix 7 station showed nothing but stars, thousands of them, scattered across the black like thrown diamonds. Dr. Minho Kang stood at the observation deck, his coffee going cold in his hands. He had been on the station for 6 months now, and the view still took his breath away. Behind him, footsteps approached. He knew the sound. Commander Heejin Park always walked with purpose, her military boots clicking against the metal floor in steady rhythm. "You got the message?" Heejin asked. Minho turned to face her. The commander looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes, shoulders tight with tension. She had been dealing with the Valix Council for 3 days straight, trying to negotiate better lab access for the human team. "The invitation? Yes, I saw it." Minho took a sip of his coffee and made a face. It was definitely cold now, and Heejin crossed her arms. "And I'm thinking about it." "Thinking about it?" Heejin's voice rose slightly. "Minho, they want to expose you to radiation that has no documented safety record. The proposal is vague. The protocols are unclear. This isn't science, it's a gamble." Minho set his coffee cup on a nearby console. He pulled out his tablet and brought up the invitation document. The Valix Research Council had sent it directly to him 3 hours ago. They wanted a human volunteer for an experiment involving exotic radiation fields. The official reason was to study human adaptability and resilience. The unofficial reason, Minho suspected, was something else entirely. "Look at this section," he said, pointing to a paragraph buried in the technical specifications. "They mention baseline neural mapping across species. Heejin, this could give us data we've never had access to before. Or it could kill you." "Maybe." Minho shrugged. "But probably not. The Valix aren't stupid. They wouldn't risk a diplomatic incident with an obvious murder." Heejin stared at him for a long moment. "You really believe that?" "I believe they think they're being clever." Minho smiled, but there was no humor in it. "They think they've designed something that will prove humans are weak, biologically inferior. They want data that shows we don't belong in their concordate. Then why give them what they want?" "Because I'm curious." Minho turned back to the stars. "And because if I'm right, if their assumptions are wrong, this experiment will prove it." Heejin was quiet. Then she sighed. "Earth Command is pushing for acceptance. They think refusing will make us look afraid." "Politics," Minho muttered. "Politics keeps us here," Heejin reminded him. "Without political support, our entire research program shuts down. We get recalled. Everything we've learned, everything we've built, goes away." Minho knew she was right. Humanity's position in the galactic community was fragile. 3 years since first contact. 3 years of being treated like children at a grown-up's table. Every decision carried weight beyond the immediate moment. The door to the observation deck slid open. Dr. Soo-hyun Lee practically bounced through, her usual energy making the room feel brighter. She was younger than both of them, fresh from her doctorate, and she approached every problem like it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. "There you are," Soo-hyun said. "I've been looking everywhere." "Have you seen the invitation?" "We're discussing it now," Heejin said. Soo-hyun's smile faded. "Please tell me you're not seriously considering accepting." "He's considering it," Heejin said. "Minho, no." Soo-hyun pulled out her own tablet. "I've been digging through the station's public databases. This exotic radiation they want to use, it's been tested on 3 other species. All 3 tests resulted in severe neural trauma." "What species?" Minho asked. "The records don't specify. They're classified. But I found accident reports, medical requisitions, emergency protocols activated. Something went very wrong in those tests." Minho took Soo-hyun's tablet and scrolled through her findings. The evidence was circumstantial but damning. 3 separate incidents over the past 2 years. Each time, the medical bay requisitioned massive amounts of neural reconstruction supplies. Each time, emergency containment protocols were activated. "This supports my theory," Minho said quietly. "What theory?" Soo-hyun asked. "That they're trying to hurt you? That they're testing a weapon?" Minho handed the tablet back. "Think about it. Exotic radiation that specifically targets neural tissue. They've been trying to calibrate it, but they can't test it safely on sentient species. So they test on animals, on simulations, but they need real data. And they think humans are expendable enough to provide that data," Heejin finished. "Or they think we're different enough that we might survive it," Minho countered. "Either way, they want to know." Soo-hyun sat down heavily on one of the observation benches. "You're actually going to do this?" "I haven't decided yet." "Yes, you have." Soo-hyun looked at him with something like sadness. You decided the moment you saw the word exotic radiation in the invitation. You want to know how it works. You want to see if human biology really is different enough to matter. Minho couldn't deny it. Scientific curiosity was a powerful thing. It had driven him through years of difficult study, through dangerous fieldwork on Earth's most hostile environments. He had studied organisms that thrived in boiling acid, in frozen tundra, in radioactive exclusion zones. He had always wanted to know how life adapted, how it survived, how it found ways to exist in places that should have been impossible, and now he had a chance to see how human biology responded to something truly alien. I need to think about it, he said finally. You have 12 hours, Hyejin said. That's the deadline for response. After that, Earth Command will make the decision for you. Then I'll have an answer in 12 hours. Hyejin and Soo-hyun exchanged looks. They knew him well enough to know that his mind was already made up. The next 12 hours would just be him convincing himself that he was making a rational decision, rather than following his curiosity into danger. After they left, Minho stood alone in the observation deck. The stars looked back at him, indifferent to his choice. Somewhere out there were billions of worlds, trillions of organisms, countless ways that life had solved the problem of existence. Humanity was just one solution among many. But maybe, just maybe, it was a solution that the Valaks hadn't encountered before. His tablet chimed. Another message from the Valaks Research Council. This one contained more technical specifications. Radiation frequencies, exposure duration, monitoring protocols. Minho read through it carefully, his scientific training automatically analyzing the methodology. It was well designed, he had to admit. If the goal was to test neural resilience under extreme conditions, this would do it. The Valaks had clearly put significant resources into developing this experiment, which meant it was important to them, which meant it mattered. Minho made his decision. He pulled up the response form and began typing his acceptance. His hands were steady. He felt calm, clear-headed. This was the right choice. It had to be. 11 hours later, he stood outside the experimental chamber. Vrexthal, the lead Valak scientist, greeted him with what might have been a smile. It was hard to tell with Valak's facial structures. Dr. Kang, Vrexthal said, we are honored by your participation. I'm honored to be selected, Minho replied, the diplomatic lie coming easily. Please enter the chamber. We will begin shortly. Minho stepped through the door. The chamber was exactly as described. White walls, monitoring equipment, a chair in the center, clinical, sterile, safe-looking. He sat down. Technicians attached sensors to his head, his chest, his arms. They worked efficiently without speaking. Through the observation window, he could see Hyejin and Soo-hyun watching. Both looked worried. Minho gave them a small wave, then the chamber sealed. The experiment began and everything changed. The hum started low, almost below hearing. Minho felt it in his bones first, a vibration that made his teeth ache slightly. He kept his eyes open, watching the displays mounted on the chamber walls. Numbers flickered and changed. Radiation levels climbing slowly. For the first few minutes, nothing felt wrong. Uncomfortable, yes. Like sitting too close to old electrical equipment. A faint metallic taste in his mouth. A pressure behind his eyes. But nothing unbearable. Nothing he couldn't handle. Through the observation window, he saw the Valak scientists watching their monitors. Vrexthal stood in the center, his crystalline features catching the light. The alien's posture suggested satisfaction. Things were going according to plan. Minho's tablet sat on a small shelf beside the chair. He had brought it against protocol, arguing that he needed something to focus on during the procedure. In reality, he wanted to record data. Real data from inside the experiment. The Valaks would have their external readings, but he would have his own observations. 20 minutes in, the discomfort increased. The pressure behind his eyes became a dull ache. His hands tingled, not painful yet, just noticeable. The kind of sensation that said something was happening to his nervous system. He picked up the tablet and began making notes. Time, sensation, intensity, location of discomfort. Basic scientific observation. If this was going to hurt, he might as well document it. 30 minutes. The headache got worse. Minho closed his eyes and focused on breathing. Deep, steady breaths. His training in fieldwork had taught him how to manage pain. Acknowledge it, understand it, but don't let it control you. Through the window, he saw Hyejin gesturing angrily at one of the Valak's technicians. He couldn't hear the conversation, but he could read her body language. She wanted them to stop. They were refusing 40 minutes. That's when everything changed. The radiation intensity jumped. Minho felt it immediately, like someone had thrown a switch. The dull ache became sharp pain. The tingling in his hands turned to burning. His vision blurred, the displays on the walls becoming smears of color. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. His balance was gone, the room spinning. He fell back into the chair, his body suddenly heavy. The pain wasn't localized anymore. It was everywhere. In his head, his chest, his spine. Every nerve screaming at once. His heart raced. He could feel it pounding, too fast, irregular. This was bad. This was very bad. Through the haze of pain, Minho's scientific mind kept working. That surprised him. He had expected agony to shut down rational thought. But part of his brain stayed clear, stayed analytical, even as his body fell apart. The radiation pattern wasn't random. He could feel it somehow, pulses, regular intervals, like waves hitting a shore. Each pulse triggered a cascade of neural firing. His brain trying to process impossible inputs, failing, trying again. He managed to grab the tablet. His hands shook violently, but he held on. He had to record this. Had to document what was happening. Timestamp. 43 minutes. Sharp increase in intensity. Neural disruption severe. Vision compromised. Motor control failing, another pulse. Minho gasped. It felt like lightning through his nervous system. Every synapse firing at once. Too much information. Too much sensation. His brain couldn't process it all, but it was trying. God, it was trying so hard. He forced his eyes to focus on the display. The radiation frequency was cycling through a specific pattern. High, low, high again. Not random, designed. This was deliberate, calculated to do exactly what it was doing. Timestamp, 45 minutes. Pattern recognized. Frequencies targeting neural pathways. Effect similar to electromagnetic disruption, but different mechanism. Pain extreme but not uniform. Some pathways more affected than others. His handwriting was almost illegible now. The tablet kept slipping from his grip. But he kept writing. Kept observing. This was data. Terrible, painful data, but data nonetheless. Through the window, he saw chaos. Hyejin was yelling now, actually yelling, her face red. Suhyun was at a console, fingers flying over controls. The Valak scientists looked worried. No, not worried, surprised. This wasn't going how they expected. Minho understood then. They had expected him to be unconscious by now. Catatonic. Every other species they tested had shut down at this intensity level. Their neural systems couldn't handle it. They had collapsed, gone dormant, protected themselves through unconsciousness. But Minho was still awake, still aware, still taking notes. It wasn't because he was stronger. He could feel his body failing, systems breaking down. His heart was struggling. His breathing shallow and irregular. Cellular damage was extensive. He was dying probably, but his brain kept working. Human brains were different, he realized. Distributed processing, redundant systems. When one pathway overloaded, another took over. When one region shut down, others compensated. The Valaks had designed this radiation to attack a central neural processor. Most species had one. A primary control center that everything ran through. Destroy that and you destroyed consciousness. Humans didn't work that way. Human brains were messy, inefficient, scattered. There was no single center to destroy. The radiation was trying to cut a cord that didn't exist. Timestamp. 50 minutes. Understanding achieved. Attack targeting wrong architecture. Human neural structure fundamentally different. Distributed consciousness. No single failure point. Pain extreme but system staying online through redundancy. His vision was almost gone now. Peripheral awareness fading. But his core cognitive functions remained. He could still think. Still analyze. Still understand what was happening to him. Another massive pulse. Minho's body convulsed. Blood vessels burst. He could taste copper. His organs were shutting down. This was it. This was death approaching, but he wasn't dead yet. Timestamp. 52 minutes. Physiological collapse imminent. Neural function persisting despite catastrophic tissue damage. Recommend immediate termination of experiment. Subject survival unlikely, but consciousness maintained. Data collection continuing. The doors exploded open. Minho barely registered it. Explosive charges meant for emergencies. Hyejin had blown the safety protocols. She was coming in. Medical teams in radiation suits surrounded him, hands on his body, lifting, carrying. Someone took his tablet. He tried to protest, but no words came out. His voice was gone. Soo-Yun's face appeared above him. She was crying. That seemed strange. Why cry? He had gotten such good data. Stay with us, she was saying. Minho, stay awake. Keep breathing. We've got you. But staying awake was getting harder. The adrenaline that had kept him conscious was failing. His body wanted to shut down, to protect itself through unconsciousness. Still, some part of his mind kept working, kept observing. The medical bay. Alien doctors looking confused. Human physiology was wrong, different from what they knew. They didn't know how to treat him. Hyejin was there shouting instructions. She had medical training, basic combat medicine. She was telling them what to do, how human bodies worked, what needed immediate attention. His brain is still active, someone said. Neural function should be impossible at this damage level. He's human, Hyejin snapped. Our brains don't shut down easy. Now fix his heart before we lose him. Minho wanted to tell her about his observations, about the radiation pattern, about why he survived when others didn't. But speech was impossible. Movement was impossible. All he could do was lie there and watch as they worked frantically to keep him alive. His last thought before unconsciousness finally took him was simple. The data was good. The experiment had failed, but the data was excellent. Soo-Hyun would know what to do with it. She would run simulations. She would understand. Humans were different. Not better. Not stronger. Just different. And sometimes different was enough. 3 days passed in fragments. Consciousness came and went like tides. Sometimes Minho woke to bright lights and alien voices. Sometimes to darkness and silence. Sometimes to Hyejin sitting beside his bed, her hand warm on his arm. Sometimes to Soo-Hyun's excited whispers about data and simulations. On the 4th day, he woke up properly. His body felt wrong, heavy and unresponsive, but his mind was clear. The medical bay ceiling was white with blue accent lighting. Very clean, very sterile. Welcome back, Hyejin said from somewhere to his right. Minho turned his head slowly. Everything hurt, but it was manageable. The kind of pain that said his body was healing rather than dying. How long? His voice came out rough, barely recognizable. 3 days, 14 hours. You've been in and out, but this is the first time you've been really coherent. Hyejin leaned forward. She looked exhausted but relieved. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck made of lightning. That's fairly accurate. Hyejin managed a small smile. Your cellular damage was extensive. The doctors say you should be dead. Multiple organ failures. Your nervous system was shredded. But somehow you're not dead. Somehow you're healing. Minho processed this. He remembered the pain. Remembered the radiation tearing through his body. Remembered taking notes while dying. My tablet. Where is it? Soo-Hyun has it. She's been working nonstop, running analysis on your observations. Hyejin's expression shifted. Minho, what you wrote down. What you figured out during the experiment. It's incredible. Where is she? Probably still in the lab. I'll call her. 10 minutes later, Soo-Hyun burst through the medical bay doors. Her hair was a mess. She had dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept since the experiment. But her eyes were bright with excitement. You're awake. Actually awake. She rushed to his bedside, clutching a tablet. Not his tablet, but one filled with data and graphs. Minho, your notes. Your observations. Do you understand what you documented? Some of it, he admitted. The radiation pattern. The neural architecture differences. It's more than that. Soo-Hyun pulled up a chair, her words coming fast. You identified the exact mechanism of the attack. The Valaks designed this radiation based on their own neural structure. They assumed all sentient species would have similar organization, centralized processing, hierarchical information flow. But humans don't, Minho said. Exactly. Human brains are distributed, parallel processing. When one pathway gets damaged, 10 others compensate. It's inefficient, messy, but it's incredibly resilient. Soo-Hyun swiped through screens of data. I've been running simulations. The radiation should have killed you instantly. It did kill test subjects from other species, but your brain kept rerouting, adapting, surviving. Minho tried to sit up. Pain flared through his chest and he gasped. Hyejin pushed him gently back down. Easy, she said. You're held together with medical tape and stubborn willpower right now. The Valaks, Minho said. They need to know. The experiment was flawed. Hyejin and Soohyun exchanged glances. What? Minho asked. The Valix Council has been trying to classify the results, Hyejin said carefully. They want to declare the experiment a failure and seal all records. Earth Command is fighting them on it, but politically it's complicated. That's insane. The data is valuable. The data proves their weapon doesn't work on humans, Soohyun said quietly. More than that, it proves they tried to use a weapon on you. That's a diplomatic nightmare. Minho closed his eyes. Politics, always politics. The science didn't matter if people were too busy covering their mistakes to learn from them. They need to fix the experimental design, he said. Both women stared at him. I'm sorry, what? Hyejin said. The experiment. It was poorly designed. Based on incomplete assumptions. If they adjust the methodology, account for neural diversity, they could actually gather meaningful data about radiation interaction with biological systems. Minho, Soohyun said slowly, they tried to kill you. They tried to prove I was weak, Minho corrected. There's a difference. And they failed because their science was bad, not because I'm particularly strong. If we help them fix it, the research becomes legitimate. Medical applications, treatments for neurological disorders. The radiation itself isn't evil. It's just a tool being used wrong. Hyejin stood up and paced to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long moment. You want to help them. After what they did, I want to help the science, Minho said. What they intended doesn't matter. What the data shows does. You're insane, Hyejin muttered, but she didn't sound surprised. Maybe, Minho agreed. But I'm right. Soohyun, you've been analyzing the patterns. You can see what needs to change. Soohyun nodded slowly. Adaptive frequency modulation instead of fixed patterns. Logarithmic intensity scaling instead of linear. Broader spectrum biomonitoring. Real-time adjustment based on subject response, she paused. It would work. It would actually work safely. Then we write it up, Minho said. Proper protocols. Peer-reviewed methodology. We turn their weapon into a research tool. Earth Command will never approve this, Hyejin warned. Then we don't ask permission. We publish. Make it open source. Let the scientific community decide if it has merit. Hyejin turned from the window. You understand this will look like weakness? Like humans rolling over for the Valix? Or it will look like humans are so confident in their biology that we can fix our enemies' weapons and hand them back with instructions. Minho met her eyes. Which interpretation sounds more intimidating? A smile tugged at Hyejin's lips. You're definitely insane. But you might be right. Over the next 2 days, they worked. Minho from his medical bed still connected to monitors. Soohyun in the lab, running simulations and double-checking calculations. Hyejin managing the political fallout and keeping the Valix Council at bay. The corrected protocols took shape. Elegant, comprehensive, addressing every flaw in the original design. It was good work. Real science, built on painful experience and careful observation. On the 6th day after the experiment, Minho insisted on presenting to the Valix Research Council. The doctors said he wasn't ready. Hyejin said it was too risky. Soohyun worried he would collapse halfway through. He went anyway. The amphitheater was massive, designed for conferences attended by dozens of species. Minho stood at the center, supported by a walking aide, his body still weak but his mind sharp. Around him, Valix scientists and council members watched in silence. Vrextal sat in the front row, his crystalline features unreadable. Thank you for seeing me, Minho began. His voice was stronger than it had been, but still rough. I'm here to discuss your radiation experiment, specifically why it failed. Murmurs rippled through the audience. The experiment was well designed, Minho continued. The equipment sophisticated, the methodology thorough, but it was based on incorrect assumptions about neural architecture. You assumed centralized processing, because that's what your species has, what most species have. He pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans, human versus Valix versus several other species. The structural differences were obvious once you knew what to look for. Human brains are different. Not better. Not worse, different. Your radiation-targeted pathways we don't use the same way. It's like attacking a network by cutting the main cable when that network is actually wireless. More murmurs. Some angry, some thoughtful. I've prepared corrected protocols, Minho said. Adaptive methodology that accounts for neural diversity. If implemented, this research could benefit every species in the concordate. Medical treatments, Therapeutic applications, real understanding of how exotic radiation interacts with biological systems. He sent the data files to the council system. Thousands of pages of research, all the work from the past week compiled into comprehensive protocols. "This is my gift to you," Minho said quietly. "Fix your experiment. Do the science, right? Learn something real." Then his legs gave out. He collapsed and the amphitheater erupted into chaos. Soo-hyun and Hyejin rushed forward, catching him before he hit the floor. Medical teams appeared from everywhere, but Minho managed a smile as they carried him out. He had done it. He had turned his near-death into data, and data into knowledge, and knowledge into something that might actually help people. Behind him, Frextal sat in stunned silence, holding a data pad containing the corrected protocols. The human had survived, had documented everything, had figured out the flaw, and then had fixed it and given the solution away freely. It didn't make sense. But the data was sound. Frextal could see that immediately. The corrected protocols were brilliant, addressing every weakness in the original design. The human had taken an attempted murder and turned it into a gift. What kind of species does that? The political storm hit within hours. Earth Command sent 17 messages demanding explanations. The Valix Council convened emergency sessions. Other species in the Concordat watched with intense curiosity. A human had been nearly killed in an experiment, then published corrections to that same experiment. Nobody knew what to make of it. Minho spent another week in the medical bay recovering from his dramatic presentation. The doctors were less amused than Soo-hyun and Hyejin, who visited daily with updates on the chaos he had created. "Earth Command is furious," Hyejin reported on day 8. "They wanted to use this incident to negotiate better terms. You giving away the corrected protocols for free undermined their position." "Good," Minho said, not looking up from the research paper he was reading. His body was healing faster than expected. Human resilience at work. Good? Hyejin sat down heavily. "Minho, I'm trying to protect human interests here. That's my job. And I'm trying to protect scientific progress. That's mine." He finally looked at her. "Which do you think matters more in the long run?" Hyejin had no answer for that. Soo-hyun arrived an hour later, practically vibrating with excitement. "You won't believe what's happening in the academic community. Your protocols are being downloaded thousands of times. Researchers from 30 different species have reached out wanting to collaborate. There's talk of establishing a new institute focused on comparative neurology." "That's good," Minho said. This time he meant it. "There's more." Soo-hyun pulled up her tablet. "Vrextal requested a private meeting with you." The room went silent. "Absolutely not," Hyejin said immediately. "Why would he want to meet?" Minho asked. The message didn't say, just that he wants to speak with you privately. No recording. No witnesses except one person of your choosing. Hyejin stood up. "It's obviously a trap, or an intimidation tactic. There's no good reason to agree to this, but Minho was curious. Frextal was the lead scientist on the radiation project, the one who had personally authorized the intensity increase that nearly killed him. What could that person possibly want to say now? "I'll meet him," Minho said. "Minho, with Soo-hyun as my witness. In a neutral location, with security nearby." He looked at Hyejin. "But I'll meet him. I want to hear what he has to say." It took 3 days to arrange. The meeting location was a small conference room in the station's diplomatic section. Neutral territory monitored but not recorded. Security teams from both Earth and the Valix waited outside. Minho arrived first, walking without assistance now. His body had healed remarkably well. Some lingering weakness, some occasional pain, but nothing that stopped him from functioning. Soo-hyun walked beside him, nervous energy radiating from her. "You sure about this?" she whispered. "No, but I'm curious." Frextal entered exactly on time. The Valix scientist was tall, his crystalline features catching the light in strange ways. He moved with careful precision, each gesture controlled. He sat across from Minho and was silent for a long moment. "Dr. Kang," he finally said. His voice was different from other Valix, deeper, more resonant. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "I was curious," Minho said honestly. "Curious." Frextal tilted his head slightly. "Yes, I have observed that about your species. Curiosity even in the face of danger. Sometimes especially in the face of danger." Another silence. Frextal seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "I must acknowledge errors in experimental design," he said. Insufficient data regarding human neural architecture. Assumptions based on limited sample size. The methodology was flawed. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was close. The methodology had merit, Minho replied. The underlying science was sound. You just didn't account for neural diversity. Yes. Frextall leaned forward slightly. Your corrected protocols address this comprehensively. I have reviewed them in detail. They are excellent work. Thank you. I do not understand why you created them. There it was, the real reason for this meeting. Minho considered his answer carefully. The experiment failed because it was based on wrong assumptions. Fixing those assumptions makes the experiment valuable. Science should be about truth, not about proving predetermined conclusions. But I attempted to prove your species inferior. Yes, I designed the experiment to demonstrate human weakness. Yes, I nearly killed you. Yes. Minho met the alien's eyes, whatever they were. Crystalline structures that serve the same function. But you failed. And failure is data too. Better data than success sometimes because it shows you where your understanding was wrong. Brexthal was silent for a long time. His crystalline features shifted slightly, colors changing in ways Minho couldn't interpret. You are not angry, the Valix finally said. It wasn't a question. Anger is expensive, Minho replied. It takes energy. Energy I'd rather spend on productive work. This is not normal behavior for sentient species. Maybe not for your experience. But humans have limited time. We don't live as long as Valix. We can't afford to waste years being angry about things that are already done. You truly believe this? I do. Another long silence. Then Vrexthal did something unexpected. He stood and performed a gesture Minho didn't recognize. A slight bow, hands positioned in a specific way. This is acknowledgement of error, the Valak said. In my culture it is rarely given. But I acknowledge error. In methodology. In assumption. In intention. Minho stood as well more slowly. His body still protested sudden movements. I acknowledge your acknowledgement. There is one more thing I must know, Vrexthal said. The gratitude you expressed in your presentation, when you thanked the council for the opportunity, was that sincere? Minho thought about it, really thought about it. Honestly, I don't know. The experience was horrible, painful, traumatic. I wouldn't want to repeat it, but it taught me things about human biology that I could never have learned safely. The data will help humans for generations. Medical treatments. Understanding our own neuroplasticity. So yes, in a strange way, I am grateful for what I learned, even though I hated how I learned it. This makes no logical sense. Probably not. Minho smiled slightly, but it's true anyway. Human psychology is complicated, Vrexthal considered this. Does it matter if the gratitude is sincere or strategic? You asked me that same question in my presentation, and you did not answer then. Because I don't know the answer, Minho admitted. Maybe both. Maybe neither. The outcome is the same either way. You have better protocols. I have better data. Future research will be safer and more productive. Whether I'm truly grateful or just acknowledging positive outcomes from a negative experience, the practical result is identical. This is the human perspective. This is my perspective. I don't speak for all humans. Vrexthal moved toward the door, then paused. Other species in the Concordat will view your actions as weakness. Forgiveness as vulnerability. Let them, Minho said. We're not concerned with appearing strong. We're concerned with learning things. This may be more terrifying than strength. Why? Because, Vrexthal said quietly, it suggests a species that cannot be deterred. Threats do not stop you. Violence does not stop you. You simply document the attempt and continue working. What can one do against such a mindset? Collaborate with it instead of fighting it? Minho suggested. Vrexthal made a sound that might have been laughter, or possibly distress. With Valix it was hard to tell. Perhaps, the alien said. Perhaps that is the answer. After Vrexthal left, Suhyun finally spoke. She had been silent throughout the entire conversation, watching with wide eyes. That was the strangest thing I've ever witnessed, she said. Strange how? He came here to understand you. Not to apologize, not really. He wanted to understand why you don't hate him. Why you helped instead of seeking revenge. And did he figure it out? I don't think so. I don't think he can. It's too alien to his worldview. Suhyun stood and stretched. But I think he respects you now. Maybe fears you a little. I hope not. Fear makes people do stupid things. They walked back toward the human quarters together. The station corridors were busy with the usual traffic. Dozens of species going about their business. Some noticed them, some didn't. The galaxy was very large and very diverse. Minho, Suyun said as they reached his door. Do you think what we're doing will actually change anything? The research? All of it. Being here, trying to fit into this community, proving we're not just violent primitives. Minho thought about it. I think we're already changing things. Maybe not in obvious ways, but every interaction teaches them something about how humans think, how we approach problems, how we survive impossible situations by being too stubborn or curious to quit. That matters. Even if they fear us for it, especially if they fear us for it. Fear can turn into respect. Respect can turn into trust. It just takes time. He smiled. And we have time now. We're part of the Concordat. We're not going anywhere. Suyun hugged him suddenly, fiercely. I'm glad you didn't die. Me too. She left and Minho entered his quarters. Small space, efficient, very human in its organized chaos. He had research papers scattered everywhere. 3 cups of coffee in various states of being forgotten, and a wall covered in notes about radiation patterns and neural architecture. He sat down at his desk and pulled up his current project. Not the radiation research, something new. An anomaly in subspace readings that nobody could explain. It was probably nothing. But it might be something. Either way, it deserved investigation. Outside his window, the stars turned slowly. Somewhere out there, other 5 years passed like water through fingers. Time moved differently on a space station. No seasons, no weather. Just the endless black outside and the controlled environment inside. But things changed anyway. People changed. Perspectives shifted. Minho walked through the corridors of Helix 7 with confidence now. No hesitation. No uncertainty. He had earned his place here through survival and stubbornness. Everyone on the station knew his story. The human who nearly died took notes during his death, fixed the weapon used against him, then thanked the people who tried to kill him. It was a strange reputation. But it worked. Dr. Kang, a young Valix researcher, called out, hurrying to catch up. Her name was Kixala, one of the new generation of scientists who had studied under the corrected protocols. I finished the analysis you requested. The results are fascinating. They walked together toward the main laboratory complex. Kixala talked enthusiastically about neural response patterns. Minho listened, occasionally asking questions, mostly just enjoying her excitement. She reminded him of Suyun 5 years ago. That same energy, that same passion for discovery. The lab was bigger now. What had started as a small human research station had grown into something massive. The Institute for Comparative Neurology, founded by Suyun, occupied 3 entire sections of Helix 7. Scientists from 40 different species worked there, all studying how different brains solved the same problems of consciousness and cognition. The Institute's motto was painted in huge letters above the main entrance. Different isn't deficient, simple words, powerful meaning. Soo-hyun was in her office, surrounded by holographic displays and half-empty coffee cups. She had grown into her role as director with surprising ease. Still energetic, still optimistic, but with a new layer of confidence and authority. Minho, perfect timing. Look at this. She pulled up a display showing treatment outcomes, the radiation therapy protocols we developed. They're being used on 18 different worlds now. Neurological disorders that were untreatable 5 years ago are now manageable. We've helped millions of patients. That's good work, Minho said, meaning it. It's your work. Your data. Your sacrifice. Our work, he corrected. You did the analysis. You ran the simulations. You built this institute, Soo-hyun smiled. Fine, our work. But still, we changed things. We actually changed things, they had. The Kang protocols, as they were now officially known, had become standard methodology across the Concordat. What had started as a weapon became a medical tool. What had started as an attempt to prove human weakness became proof of human adaptability, and humanity's reputation had shifted because of it. Hyejin arrived an hour later, looking professional in her ambassador's uniform. She had grown into her role too, Earth's permanent representative to the Concordat Council. She negotiated treaties now, managed conflicts, represented human interests across dozens of star systems. I need you both for something, she said without preamble. Anniversary ceremony. 5 years since the incident. The Valix Council wants to make it official. Official how? Minho asked. Formal recognition. Public acknowledgement of the Kang Protocol's contribution to galactic medicine. They want you to speak, Minho groaned. I hate public speaking. You collapsed during your last public presentation, Soo-hyun pointed out. Literally collapsed. And yet you did it anyway. You can handle this one. That was different. That was necessary. So is this, Hyejin said firmly. Humanity's position in the Concordat is stable now. But we need to maintain relationships, show that we're gracious, that we can move past conflicts. I never had a conflict. I had a scientific disagreement that resulted in temporary death. Both women stared at him. Temporary death? Soo-hyun repeated. I got better. Hyejin rubbed her temples. Minho, please just give a short speech. Thank the council. Talk about scientific cooperation. Don't mention temporary death, he agreed reluctantly. 3 days later, he stood in the grand amphitheater again. The same room where he had presented his corrected protocols 5 years ago. The same room where he had collapsed from exhaustion and nearly dying, but everything else was different. The amphitheater was packed. Not just Valix scientists. Representatives from dozens of species. Media recording devices. The event was being broadcast across the Concordat. This was meant to be a big deal. A symbol of reconciliation and progress. Minho stood at the center, comfortable now in front of crowds. 5 years of presenting research papers had cured most of his stage fright. Thank you for having me, he began. Simple opening. Professional. 5 years ago, I participated in an experiment that nearly killed me. Today, I'm here to celebrate what came from that experience. He pulled up holographic displays showing the spread of the Kang protocols, medical facilities on dozens of worlds, patients treated successfully, research papers published, careers built on the foundation of that terrible day. Pain teaches lessons that comfort cannot, Minho said. The experiment was painful, but it taught us about neural diversity, about the importance of questioning assumptions, about how different doesn't mean deficient, just different. He talked about the research, the advances in treatment, the lives saved. He kept it factual, scientific, avoiding politics and emotion. Then someone in the audience raised their hand. A journalist by the identifying badge. Dr. Kang, would you do it again? Knowing the outcome, would you still accept the invitation? Mio considered the question seriously. Absolutely not. Once was enough for data collection. The experience was horrible and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. He paused. But if someone else wants to try killing me with exotic radiation, I'd appreciate advance notice so I can bring better recording equipment. The amphitheater erupted. Laughter from dozens of species, though it sounded different for each one. Some chirped. Some rumbled. Some made sounds that had no human equivalent. But they all understood the humor. All except Frexthal, who sat in the back row. The Valix scientist didn't laugh. But he did incline his head slightly. Acknowledgement. Respect. After the ceremony, people wanted to talk. Scientists wanting collaboration. Politicians wanting connections. Media wanting stories. Minho handled it all with practiced efficiency, giving short answers, redirecting to Soo-hyun when possible. Eventually, he escaped to the observation deck. The same place he had stood 5 years ago, deciding whether to accept the invitation. The same stars looked back at him. Indifferent. Eternal. Soo-hyun found him there just like Hyejin had 5 years ago. Patterns repeating. You did good, she said, standing beside him. I survived. That's different from doing good. You changed the galaxy. That's definitely doing good. Minho shrugged. We changed a small part of how aliens think about humans. The galaxy is very big. Lots more parts to change. Always thinking ahead. Someone has to. They stood in comfortable silence watching the stars. Other species were out there. Hundreds of them. Thousands maybe. All living, thinking, trying to understand their place in the universe. And humanity was part of that now. Really part of it. Not guests. Not visitors, members. There's something I never asked you, Soo-hyun said quietly. That day in the chamber. When you were dying. What were you thinking? Mio thought back. 5 years hadn't dimmed the memory. The pain was still vivid when he let himself remember it. I was thinking about patterns, he said. The radiation had a pattern. My body's response had a pattern. Everything was data. Even dying was data. And I kept thinking, someone needs to write this down. Someone needs to understand this. It might as well be me. That's very you. Is it? Absolutely. You see everything as a puzzle. Even your own death. Just another problem to solve. Did solve it, Minho pointed out. Yes, you did. Soo-hyun bumped his shoulder gently. You solved dying. That's pretty impressive. I solved not dying. Different thing. Still impressive. The door opened behind them. Hyejin approached, tablet in hand. She always had a tablet. Ambassador work never stopped. They want to name the new research station after you, she said without preamble. No. Minho, no. Name it after the research. The Kang Protocols Research Station, not Minho Kang Station. The protocols matter. I don't. Hyejin sighed but nodded. She had expected that answer. Fine, I'll tell them. But you're going to the dedication ceremony. Will there be speeches? Probably. Then no. Minho, you're going. Make me. I'm your commanding officer. I'm a civilian scientist who works for Earth Command. Only technically. Soo-hyun laughed. Some things never change. You two still argue like siblings. She started it, Minho said. He's impossible, Hyejin countered, but they were all smiling. 5 years of working together had turned them into something like family. Strange, dysfunctional, often arguing family. But family nonetheless. The stars continued their eternal dance outside. The galaxy turned. Life went on. Minho thought about the data anomaly he had been studying. The subspace readings that still didn't make sense. He needed to run more tests. Needed to check the math again. Needed to figure out what was causing the strange patterns. Always another puzzle. Always another question. Always something new to understand. That's what being human meant. Not strength. Not resilience. Not surviving impossible odds. It meant curiosity that never stopped. Questions that never ended. The constant,